quote, direct control of the director of the FBI. Look at this clip.
This is way off the topic, but who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book?
FBI.
But who? That is, I mean, there's...
Oh, that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
All right, so you were sworn in as director more than 200 days ago. Now the Black Book is under your direct control.
The man on that screen and the man sitting in that chair are the same person. Same name. Same face. 2 years apart. And the distance between what the man on the screen said and what the man in the chair has done across 8 months of leading the Federal Bureau of Investigation is the story that no single clip, no single headline, and no single hearing has fully captured. Until today. Because when Representative Jamie Raskin pressed play on that archive footage inside a House Judiciary hearing room, something happened that has almost never happened in American political history. A sitting FBI director was forced to sit in silence while his own past self made promises directly to his current self. The Black Book. Under direct control. Simple. Because of who is on that list. 2 years ago, that was his argument for why the FBI was protecting Epstein's files. Today he is the FBI director. The files are not fully out. The Black Book has not been released. And when asked this week who is on Epstein's client list, the director of the FBI redirected to a released index and would not confirm a single name. The man on the screen and the man in the chair are the same person. Their answers are not. That gap is what this documentary is going to close. To understand why that moment in the hearing room matters so much, you need to understand who Kash Patel was before he had any power over the things he was talking about. In 2023, Patel was a podcaster. A political commentator. A former government official building a public profile by saying things that the political base he was speaking to wanted to hear. He appeared on podcasts and in interviews making specific, confident statements about the FBI, the Epstein files, and the people he said were protecting powerful names from accountability. He was not bound by legal restrictions. He was not constrained by court orders. He had no sworn obligations to any institution. He was free to say whatever he believed. Or whatever was useful. And what he said was specific. The Black Book was under the direct control of the director of the FBI. The reason it had not come out was simple. Because of who was on that list. He did not say the files were blocked by court orders. He did not say there were search warrant limitations from 2006 or grand jury secrecy rules or 3 separate federal judges who had declined to lift restrictions. He said, simple. Because of who is on that list. One sentence. No qualifications. No legal nuance. Then in January 2025, President Trump nominated him to be the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The man who said the director had direct control over the Black Book became the director. And the first thing his team cited when asked about the Epstein files was court orders.
Pursue some of the things that you were just talking to Mr. Fry about and remind you about your confirmation hearing. At your confirmation hearing in January, you said under oath, and I quote, "There will be no politicization at the FBI. There will be no retributive actions taken by the FBI should I be confirmed." And in your written response to the Senate questionnaire, you said, I quote, "Personnel decisions shall be based on performance and adherence to the law, and every FBI employee will be held to the absolute same standard, and no one will be terminated for case assignments." So I want to just go through a couple of scenarios.
Representative Deborah Ross of North Carolina did something in that hearing room that was methodical in a way that most political theater is not. She did not accuse Patel of anything. She did not call him corrupt or partisan or dishonest. She read his own words back to him. 3 specific commitments. Made under oath. In January 2025. Before he had the power to act on any of them. No politicization at the FBI. No retaliatory actions. No one terminated for case assignments. 3 sentences. 1 witness. The same man who was now sitting across from her in that hearing room after 8 months of leading the bureau those sentences were meant to govern. And then she asked the question that followed naturally from his own words. What happened? Patel's response referenced crime statistics. Child predator captures. Drug seizures. The lowest murder rate in recorded history. He cited none of those things in relation to the 3 commitments Ross had just read. He did not say no politicization occurred because of these specific decisions. He did not say no retaliation occurred because of this documented record. He did not explain how the termination of agents who worked on January 6 cases was consistent with his written statement that no one would be terminated for case assignments. He cited statistics that had nothing to do with the 3 sentences she read. The mirror was showing the same gap it had shown all day. What the 2023 Patel promised. What the 2025 Patel delivered. And the space between the two that no amount of crime statistics could close. Here are the documented facts about the agents whose cases most directly test those 3 commitments. The first is Steve Jensen. Jensen oversaw the Federal Bureau of Investigation's involvement in the January 6 investigation. That is confirmed by multiple news organizations and referenced in Senate testimony. He was fired. The second is Brian Driscoll. Driscoll served as a senior FBI official who resisted demands from the Justice Department to supply names of agents who had worked on January 6 cases. His resistance is documented in his federal lawsuit and referenced in hearing testimony. He received the Medal of Valor for exceptional courage in the line of duty. He was fired. The third is Walter Giardina. Giardina was a longtime agent whose case history included investigations connected to the Trump administration. He was fired while his wife was days from dying of a terminal illness. A fellow agent personally and directly asked Patel for mercy on his behalf. That request was denied. Giardina was fired. 3 documented cases. 3 agents whose connection to investigations of people connected to the Trump administration is either confirmed or alleged in active federal litigation. 3 terminations that Patel attributes to performance failures and constitutional duty standards. What the fired agent's federal lawsuit alleges is different. The complaint filed by Driscoll, Jensen, and Evans in federal court uses the phrase campaign of retribution. It alleges that the standard applied was not performance. It alleges the standard applied was political loyalty. That lawsuit is active and unproven. Patel disputes it entirely. A federal court will decide. But the question Representative Ross was asking is simpler than anything a court will ultimately address. She was asking whether those 3 agents were terminated for case assignments. Patel said no one is terminated for case assignments alone. The word alone was not in his confirmation commitment.
First question. Would hiring FBI agents, analysts, and supervisors from only one political party being politicization of the FBI or making personnel decisions based on performance and adherence to the law?
We don't ask FBI people, applicants, where their political parties are.
Mr. Patel, do you ask FBI applicants who they voted for?
The FBI does not.
Are you aware that in the lawsuit?
2 words. We do. The director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation was asked whether his agency asks applicants who they voted for. He began to answer. And the first 2 words out of his mouth before the correction came were, we do. He caught himself. He corrected immediately. He said the FBI does not ask that question. He called it a mistake. Those are the facts. The correction is on the record. The denial is on the record. But here is why that specific moment matters in the context of this hearing. The fired agent's federal lawsuit contains an allegation that during internal FBI review processes, employees were asked who they voted for in the 2024 presidential election. That allegation is unverified. Patel has stated the FBI does not ask that question and has denied it under oath. What the 2 words we do created in that hearing room was not evidence of wrongdoing. They were 2 words. Quickly corrected. The director himself called them a mistake. What they created was a moment where 2 things existed simultaneously on the official congressional record. A denial. and its opposite. Two words apart from each other. And in a proceeding where the central argument is about what Kash Patel says versus what Kash Patel does, the distance between two words and their correction is a distance that members of the committee noticed. Ross noticed. She pressed immediately. She did not let it pass. Because in this hearing, every word mattered. Every gap between 2023 and 2025 mattered. And the biggest gap of all was still coming. Because it involved a mandate Patel had not been asked about. A third directive he volunteered himself. Without being prompted. And without realizing what he had just confirmed. Stay with us. Because what Patel said next, on his own, is the piece of this hearing that changes how you understand everything else. Earlier in this same hearing, before Ross read his oath back to him, before Raskin played the archive footage, before the we do moment, Kash Patel said something that nobody asked him to say. He was describing his mission as FBI director. He outlined two directives he said the president gave him when he was appointed. Crush violent crime. Defend the homeland. Then he added a third. On his own. Unprompted. In a formal congressional hearing. On the official record. He said the president also gave him a mandate to level the institution that has become the weaponization of law enforcement. Level the institution. Three words that Kash Patel chose, in a congressional oversight hearing, while simultaneously being pressed about whether his personnel decisions constituted retaliation and politicization. Now hold those three words against the three sentences from his confirmation. No politicization. No retaliatory actions. No one terminated for case assignments. Those were the public commitments made to get confirmed. Level the institution was the mandate he acknowledged after confirmation. These two things cannot both be fully true at the same time. You cannot simultaneously commit to no politicization and execute a mandate to level an institution you have defined as politically weaponized. Those two goals, pursued against the same workforce, produce incompatible outcomes for the people caught between them. Steve Jensen was in that workforce. Brian Driscoll was in that workforce. Walter Giardina was in that workforce. Patel said his decisions were based on performance and constitutional duty. He has maintained that position consistently and on the record. But he also said level the institution. On his own. Without being asked. In a hearing where he was being asked to explain the distance between what he promised and what he did. That moment is the center of the mirror device. Past Patel made 3 public commitments in January. Present Patel volunteered a third mandate in September that the 3 commitments do not easily accommodate. The gap between those two things is not a matter of political interpretation. It is a matter of documented language from the same person in the same institutional context. Now let us return to the moment that opened this documentary. Because the archive footage Raskin played proved something more specific than most coverage noticed. When Patel said in 2023 that the Black Book was under the direct control of the director of the FBI, he was making an argument about institutional authority. He was saying the director had the power. The director was the obstacle. Change the director and you change the outcome. That argument built his political credibility. It was the reason people who cared about the Epstein case supported his appointment. They believed that a Patel-led FBI would do what the previous one had not. He is now that director. And here is what his own testimony has produced across 2 days of congressional hearings. On the Epstein files, 3 court orders, prior administrations, search warrant limitations from 2006, and no confirmed names from the client list. On the fired agents, performance-based decisions, constitutional duty standards, and the word alone that was not in his confirmation commitment. On the Maxwell transfer, not in the weeds. On the we do moment, a correction. On the third mandate, volunteered without being asked. The archive footage Raskin played did not expose a conspiracy. It did something more durable than that. It documented the distance between what political accountability sounds like before someone has power, and what institutional accountability looks like after they get it. That distance is not unique to Kash Patel. It is a pattern that runs through American institutional history. The outsider who says the system is broken becomes the insider who discovers the system is more complicated than it looked from outside. What is specific to Patel is the precision of his 2023 language. He did not say I will try. He did not say I will work within the law to push for disclosure. He said, simple. Because of who is on that list. Simple left no room for court orders. Simple left no room for prior administrations. Simple left no room for complexity. And yet everything that has followed his appointment has been anything but. If you are finding value in this kind of coverage, the subscribe button is right below this video. AVA Reports exists to track the documented record, not the political version of events. Hit the bell so you never miss what comes next.
I have another one that is a July 2025 article by the New York Times entitled "How a Frantic Scouring of the Epstein Files Consumed the Justice Department," stating that DOJ and FBI employees reviewing the Epstein files were instructed to flag any mentions of Trump and other celebrities.
Without objection.
And I have another unanimous consent request to enter into the record an August 2025 article by The Guardian entitled "Ghislaine Maxwell Hinted at Epstein's Ties to Trump Officials. Why Wasn't She Pressed for Names?" stating that Maxwell told Deputy U.S. Attorney Todd Blanche,
The bonus allegation Raskin raised requires careful handling because the line between what is documented and what is alleged is specific and matters. Here is what is documented. In June 2026, Representative Raskin sent a formal letter to Patel demanding a full accounting of all bonus payments made to FBI employees and all related communications by a specific date. That letter exists. It is public. Raskin's formal demand is part of the congressional record. Here is what is alleged but not yet proven. Raskin's letter references what he described as credible information that Patel had created what some internal sources called a payback squad, a team operating inside the FBI to build cases against political opponents of the administration. The allegation includes claims that cash bonuses beyond federal pay caps were authorized for agents who participated in this work. Patel denied the substance of these allegations directly and on the record. He called them false. The House Judiciary Committee minority reported that polygraph examinations were being conducted on FBI employees suspected of leaking information about Patel's behavior. If true, those polygraphs would be a documented use of internal surveillance against employees for potentially speaking to outside parties about institutional concerns. Patel has not confirmed the polygraph program publicly. What all of these allegations share, the payback squad, the bonuses, the polygraphs, is that they are active. They have not been resolved. They exist as formal demands and unconfirmed reports in a proceeding that Patel characterized as political theater. Whether they are political theater or documented institutional misconduct is the question that ongoing legal proceedings are now positioned to answer. 3 specific developments that will determine how this story resolves. All 3 are active right now. The first is the federal civil lawsuit. Driscoll, Jensen, and Evans versus Patel and the Attorney General. Active in Washington federal court. If it survives early motions to dismiss, discovery begins. That discovery process will require documentation of every personnel decision connected to the allegations. It will produce sworn depositions from officials at the FBI, the Department of Justice, and potentially the White House. Whatever the payback squad allegation contains, whatever the bonus payments involved, whatever communications existed about the specific agents who were fired, all of that becomes subject to formal legal production. The second is the House Judiciary formal document demand. Raskin's June 2026 letter set a specific compliance deadline for a full accounting of bonus payments and related communications. Whether Patel complied, partially complied, or refused to comply will produce a documented record of how the FBI responded to formal congressional oversight. That record does not disappear. The third is the ongoing Epstein file release. 3 court orders remain active. The Department of Justice has attempted to have them lifted. All 3 judges declined. The file release continues in pieces. Whether any future release includes material that tests the specific claims Patel made in 2023 about what the director controls and why the names have not come out will answer the question that archive footage raised in that hearing room. All 3 of these are on public record. All 3 are moving. And all three connect directly back to the same documented gap this documentary opened with. What the man on the screen said. What the man in the chair has delivered. Here is the complete mirror. In 2023, Kash Patel said the Epstein Black Book was under the direct control of the director of the FBI. He said the reason it had not come out was simple. Because of who is on that list. In January 2025, he told the Senate under oath there would be no politicization at the FBI, no retaliatory actions, and no one would be terminated for case assignments. In September 2025, as the director of the FBI, he told Congress he could not release Epstein material beyond what court orders permitted. He said no one at his bureau is terminated for case assignments alone. He described a mandate to level the institution he now leads. And he began an answer about whether his agency asks applicants who they voted for with the words "we do." 3 documented gaps. Each one between a specific thing he said before and a specific thing he said after. None of them require political framing to be significant. What they require is a simple, direct comparison of documented public language from the same person in the same institutional context across a specific period of time. That comparison is what the mirror shows. Whether those gaps represent a man who discovered the job was more complex than he believed from the outside, a man who said what was useful before he had power and adjusted his language after he acquired it, or something more serious that ongoing litigation will eventually document, that is genuinely contested. The courts will produce answers. The discovery process will produce documentation. And the next chapter of this story will be written not in congressional hearing rooms but in federal courtrooms where the legal standards are different from the political ones. We will track every verified development as it comes. 2 questions for the AVA Reports community. The first. Kash Patel said in 2023 that the reason the Epstein files had not come out was simple, because of who is on the list. He now says court orders are the primary barrier. Which explanation do you find more credible, and what specific documented evidence leads you to that conclusion? The second. When a public official volunteers a mandate to level an institution while simultaneously being pressed about whether his personnel decisions constitute retaliation against that same institution's employees, does that admission change how you evaluate his previous commitments to no politicization and no retaliatory actions? Both answers belong in the comments below. Not political takes. Documented reasoning. The conversation that happens in this community is one of the few places where those 2 things can coexist. Subscribe to AVA Reports. Hit the notification bell. The next chapter is already moving through the courts. Thank you for watching.